it's fair to say that the women and peace security agenda in ASEAN is relatively nascent. ASEAN's diversity in political systems, in economic development, in ethnicity, religion, cultures, and language, all that diversity also adds another layer to how ASEAN collectively tackles priorities such as WPS. Not all ASEAN member states experience armed conflict. And of course, there are new challenges, some not so new, but which have re-emerged or resurged and exacerbated existing tensions. Terrorism, migration and displacement, climate change, and most recently, the COVID-19 pandemic have all had their own distinct gendered impacts. Women still continue to be disproportionately affected by such challenges. And of course, in the ASEAN member states where armed conflict and communal tensions have threatened the fabric of society, there are continuing challenges, but there are also inspiring stories and experiences. Women have made important contributions to peace processes in the Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, and Myanmar. Their perspectives have shaped not only the outcomes, but also the planning and implementation of post-conflict recovery plans. It's not all at the same level, of course, and there are still barriers. Gendered peace processes are not yet the norm. Women still remain marginalized, despite growing acknowledgement of the benefits of including women and the international instruments that promote women's inclusion. And of course, whether it's an international instrument, whether it's a regional commitment, these commitments have yet to be fully implemented by most actors. In ASEAN, we have a saying, commitments may be regional, but implementation is national. So I think it's useful and important for us to study and compare peace agreements and their provisions for women, girls, and gender, the nature and substance of these provisions, and whether women are signatories to or participants in the peace negotiations. And this is what we could probably do with much more granular detail for this region as a regional experience and as an input to the global discourse. Peace agreements with a gender perspective are still an exception, and there is ongoing research on that. The University of Edinburgh's Political Settlements Research Program has found that the proportion of peace agreements providing for women, girls, and gender in 2020 continued to recover following a drop in 2017. And 5 out of the 6 peace agreements with gender provisions signed in 2020 were substantive agreements. This means that these agreements partially or comprehensively address issues that are central to resolving the conflict. And these substantive agreements are more likely to contain references to women than, say, agreements related to ceasefires. The University of Edinburgh's Political Settlements Research Program also has found that only 3 peace agreements in 2020 included provisions relating to violence against women. But let's look at ASEAN and what have been the successes. Women have participated effectively in the Track 1 or government processes. In Myanmar, Janan Lato, Chin Chin, these were 2 out of 3 co-facilitators of the political dialogue between the Myanmar government and the ethnic armed organizations. The Union Peace Accord Part 3, which was signed in 2020, had as signatories Dr. Mae Win Min, Dr. Mama Mew, and Nan A Thue on behalf of Myanmar's parliament, the ethnic armed organizations, and the political parties group, respectively. But overall in Myanmar, the majority of women's participation and contribution to peace processes still tend to be at the Track 2, at the civil society level, although women in civil society can still give input to the Track 1 discussions, either as advisors to the delegations who are participating in Track 1, or via the issues-based national dialogues for civil society input. It's not just Myanmar. In Indonesia, only a handful of women have been involved in formal peace processes too in recent history, but there are, of course, some rare exceptions. Shadia Marhaban, who is a member of the ASEAN Women for Peace Registry from Indonesia, was involved as a member during the final round of peace talks on Aceh. I think it's more popularly known as the Helsinki process. Shadia was a member of a support group to the Free Aceh movement. Then for the peace process in Poso, 2 female pastors from the Christian community, Nelly Alamako and Liz Gilipu, and a Muslim woman, Ruwaida Utingo, were involved in the Malino 1 process aimed at drawing down the violence. And in the Malino 2 process in Maluku, a female pastor, Margareta Hendrik, and 2 Catholic women, Sister Brigitta Renayan and Eti Dumadabun, were chosen as representatives of the Christian community, but there was no female representative in the Malino 2 process, and this is documented by Relief Web. The Philippines has the highest participation in peace processes, and the Council on Foreign Relations has documented this as a case study on women's participation at both Track 1 and civil society levels. Miriam Coronel Ferrer led the Philippine government's negotiating team and was the first and probably remains the only female chief negotiator in history to sign a major peace accord. And among our members of the ASEAN Women for Peace Registry, Amina Rasul Bernardo is one of the leading Muslim leaders in the Philippines working to give effect to the spirit and letter of peace agreements, where women's formal participation in the Philippines has been high relative to other peace processes. Madame Amina is the lead convener of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy, and her podcast series, She Talks Peace, features women leaders and peace builders from all over the world. That podcast was launched on ASEAN Day, August the 8th, last year in 2021, and is anchored in the Women, Peace and Security agenda, providing a platform for women peace builders to share their stories and their role in bringing peace and security to their communities. Turning to Thailand, political participation there, research has shown, remains relatively low among women, and gender-based violence is a persistent social concern which worsened during the pandemic. Researchers in this field have also documented the role that women are playing in the South. In the southern border provinces, women have promoted social cohesion and protected human rights by coming together in networks. And there is a special representative appointed to promote women's engagement in the peace process and to facilitate their engagement in the peace dialogues going on there. We talked about peace networks. About 23 women's groups in the Deep South in Thailand formed a network in 2015 called the Women's Agenda for Peace, which has now been changed, I think, to Peace Agenda of Women, with a specific aim of promoting women's role in peace building. So these are some examples of women in ASEAN as peace builders and advocates, trying to bring down barriers word by word, move by move, step by step. We can view barriers as opportunities for engagement, where women's groups can engage more deeply to promote the implementation of these instruments and include women's perspectives to the peace and security agenda. Some of these barriers have to do with gendered assumptions and processes. What are these? It's mainly due, I think, to that traditional view that peace-building processes often reinforce existing power structures and elites by upholding the influence of recognized male stakeholders. A research done in 2012 by Bjorkdal highlights this. And I think there needs to be more investigation or recognition of how conflicts affect women's lives and bodies, as well as attention paid to what women do amidst conflict situations, including participating as combatants. So I think these traditional gendered ways of viewing conflict, and how to prevent conflict, how to continue with post-conflict peace building, it still centers around the male, demobilized male soldiers, while women are widely assumed to return to their domestic roles in the post-conflict situation. And women's economic empowerment and potential contributions to post-conflict reconciliation and healing, I think, are important areas that need to be discussed or considered, both, I think, at the main table. But there are also technical, logistical, and diversity barriers, even when there is a role for women negotiators and mediators. Women mediators and negotiators require as much as their male counterparts for travel and protection for themselves and for their families, translation, advocacy, and capacity building support. And even the understanding of women, I think, has typically been applied one-dimensionally. There is a diversity of women in terms of age, ethnicity, social groups, whether they are rural or urban, levels of educational attainment, and also the extent of their role and agency in community or family settings. Women from minority, marginalized groups are still at a disadvantage. So I think these are the barriers that we need to continue confronting, discussing, and finding out more information for policy relevant recommendations for action.